We are live. Hello, hello.
We're alive. We're here. We're
We are
doing this
alive.
again.
Barely. Barely.
Well, I know. I was just saying, trying to get everything organized and running to clean my cup before this all started. I have a lovely piece of lime in it from, yeah, before.
Hopefully, all the technical side is figured out this time.
You actually might have this recorded. You mean you might actually do your job?
Maybe. So, this will be the first episode on Spotify because last week's first official episode had a few technical difficulties.
So, and then this first episode will be recorded on Twitch now. Will it actually be there for people who aren't going to stay and listen
Yes.
to us talk for however long right now?
Yeah. So, it should save on Twitch for 14 days. It'll be on YouTube sometime soon. And also, it'll be on Spotify tomorrow.
Okay.
In a
And
perfect
we
world.
should have this all sorted and ready to go officially.
In a perfect world, yes.
So, my name's Anthony, and this is Babbling Over Borders.
I'm Drake. Hello, hello.
Oh, I guess I should have let you do the Babbling Over Borders part.
No, it's fine. I'm just the sidekick, you know? Your podcast.
Yeah, right, buddy. Definitely not.
Yeah.
This is not. This is supposed to
You
be a
got it.
two-way street, and it needs to be a two-way street. And I can definitely bully my
Good.
way back into this. Don't worry.
Every once in a while.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You
I'm
know
just here
it.
for
You
the
know it.
looks. It's your commentary. I'm just here for people to look at.
See, and you know what though? Like, there's kind of, I guess, where I wanted to start this off and kind of get your opinions on, why a podcast? Why do we do a podcast? And what attracts you to other people's podcasts? Like, I would definitely, you
Hmm
know what I mean? What do you look
No, that
for?
is a good question. I think it's random. I watch a lot of podcasts of people I already watch do other content. And then recently they've been like, I'm gonna make a podcast and I'll tune in, right? There's not a lot of podcasts that I've listened to that have been like I'm searching for a podcast. It's mostly I
Okay.
stumble across their podcast. Which I guess poses the question, how do you build a podcast if you don't already have an audience, right? Like, do most people search for podcasts, or do most
I have
people
no idea.
stumble on podcasts?
Well,
But I don't know.
and and this is kind of when I'm curious, right? Like, I've been asked to do a podcast before. I've never
Hmm
had an opportunity like this. Like, again, you've definitely been a huge help there in allowing this all to grow and come
Yeah.
to fruition. But like, I've been told, like, hey, why don't you do a podcast? Why don't you do a podcast? And I'm like, about what? And what do you go talk about? You know what I mean? For
Right.
however long, you know what I mean? And in reality, like, with the podcast, there is a little bit of commitment there. You know what I mean? You're supposed to do it at
Yeah.
a certain time on a certain day, and and
For it
I'm
to
like,
grow
my
at
wife.
least, right? I mean, I guess technically we could just do it whenever we want, right? In theory, we could just get on and talk for a couple hours, right? But I feel like consistency is the key to growth on most social media and for viewer retention, right? So if we want the same people and new people to view it, then we need to be accessible at a specific time so they can dedicate that time. Because this is a lot of time to dedicate too, right? It's not like a quick YouTube clip where it's like a few minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, right? It's like a 2 hour ordeal. I mean, last time we went for almost 4 hours, right?
Yeah, I know you wouldn't stop talking.
Yeah. Something like that.
Well, and so, like, I guess there's the other thing. Like, I do agree there's a huge part of consistency there that plays a part in social media from what experiences I have with it, right? Like,
Hmm
I found every day, you know what I mean, was a good way to gain access. And then you see other tips and tricks like posting in a wide variety of groups, different here and there. And then, you know what I mean? Like, it really starts to grow and expand. And you can share this around so much, but like, where do you what groups are you sharing a podcast to? You know what I mean? Is
So
there
that's the
like a
thing. And
podcast
who do like
base
why
group?
would they care, right? Like if you go into a group that's too saturated, then you have we're just another person, random person, right? Or if you put it in groups that we're like active in and known around, right? Then they're coming not really for the podcast, but just to support. So how do you balance that, right?
Well, and how do you make it worth other people's time to watch and listen, and
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like what do they benefit out of me and you literally talking nonsense? Like I think that's the other thing when it came to podcasts. And you, obviously you look at Joe Rogan, that's literally the podcast and how it all started to me, you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like, and he's got some very interesting characters, but there's other times where I'm like, yo, there's no way I could sit there and listen to these people talk for 3 hours. I have no interest, so I just don't listen.
See, I feel like podcast is just a new term to describe something that's been around for a long time, right? Look at radio shows, like Sirius XM radio shows. That's a podcast. There's no difference, right? If
That's a
anything, this
very
is
good
even
point.
more immersive because we're actually live right now, right? You'll be able to see videos and everything. Like we're live with
Well,
our cameras, right? But you see, I mean, people listen to their car or drive around every morning, right? Before podcasts gained popularity, people were listening to radio shows every day, right? But nobody said, let's name this and do it without being on the radio.
see, now there's an interesting point, and obviously with different platforms, and I really don't know this, right? Except for what little I do know, you're not allowed to, like, we couldn't go play music, right? If we go play
Yeah.
music, certain places are going to take it down because you don't have rights to those music and you're not
Mm-hmm.
allowed to play music. So, like, how would you end up turning a podcast into, I don't know, a music station? Like,
So I
I don't know.
think
You definitely got me thinking
so.
about the whole
Yeah.
bigger picture here now.
So what you're talking about now is DMCA, is what they call it, and that's essentially like copyright claims on music, right? So YouTube is really bad about it. So it's a lot worse than Twitch. So Twitch will delete the video after it's posted, essentially, right? So
Okay.
like I said, this video will be saved for 14 days after today. But if we played music in it, or if Twitch picked up any type of copyright in our live stream, then they would take the video down so that nobody could go back and watch it, right? YouTube, if you are recording on, or if you're uploading a video to YouTube, they'll do the same thing and they'll strike you, right? So you get like 3 strikes before they just ban your account. But if you're
Yeah.
live on YouTube and you play copyrighted material, they'll stop your stream immediately. They're a lot more strict about that actually, because it's actually more automated on YouTube than it is on Twitch. So
Oh,
anything,
okay.
if we were streaming on YouTube right now and we played almost any song, or even if we were watching some videos, right? But
Yeah.
if they struck us while we were live, they would just stop the stream completely. Now we could go back live, from what I'm understanding, but you do it too much, they'll just ban you off the platform.
Okay. And so on radio stations and even that kind of thing, like obviously between here and Canada, there is really no difference in terms of like podcasts and access to platforms like YouTube and Spotify and those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
I do wonder if there is different content depending on what country you're in, though. You know what I
So I
mean? I
think it
think with
is. So I think copyright is per country, right? So that's why you see a lot of like Chinese knockoffs, right?
okay,
All these like big manufacturing plants in China producing, let's say, fake Supreme shirts, right?
yeah,
So Supreme does have a copyright on their logo, on their shirts, all the stuff they're creating, right? So if I went and I opened up a store here in America of selling Supreme goods that were fake, they would shut me down. They would send me a cease and desist. They'd sue me to death, right? But
yeah,
that's why they're able to do it in China, because it's not enforced in China, right? They're like, the Chinese government isn't going to enforce a law or anything that American like is happening in America, right? So that's why you see
no,
a
I
lot of
get
that. It's still illegal to sell this stuff, right? So you go to like flea markets and you see a lot of like fake merchandise. That is technically illegal. But like I said, the enforcement would be so outrageous, right? It'd be impossible to enforce most of the time.
well, yeah, I think enforcement's another. That's a whole
Music,
nother
yeah, and music works
topic.
essentially the same way, but most of the people you're fighting against are not actually the artists, it's the record labels. And they've gotten to the point where they're just so stingy with music because they're making money no matter where it's on, right? If it's on Spotify, they make money per listeners or whatever. YouTube, same way, like views, right? Ads, stuff like that. So it's the record labels that are really blocking most of like music claims, right? And some of them
See,
are like outlandish.
Yeah, but there's an interesting point though. Like they go and start their own channels, and you've seen artists start to do that quite a while ago now, right? And
Hmm.
basically pump their own content, where a lot of the time they were relying on other people to push their content. And like I think Canada bans a lot, and Netflix is the one I'm thinking of that there's a big difference on, right? Like I remember
Hmm.
before you could do a certain thing and log into a US account with Netflix. And I bet you can't even do this anymore. You aren't able to do half of the things you used to be able
No.
to on the internet. But go and access a US account, and the videos there that you couldn't access in Canada, there was a huge difference in videos, right? I'd be curious to know the differences in actual like radio broadcasts and
No.
maybe even podcasts. You know what I mean? Like, are they gonna do certain things with ours because we're on different sides of the thing? Like, you can't do this, and
Yeah.
you can't do that because of this and that. Like, are we gonna have any of those issues?
I think most of it, with music at least, is up to like radios will buy the rights to use a song, and each radio station or parent company will purchase the rights from whoever owns the music, which is most of the case record labels, right? So essentially, if I wanted to open a radio station, I would have to go to the record labels of new songs when they come out and say, hey, we want to rent this song from you and buy the rights to play it on our radio station, right? And then they pay a fee for that. From what I understand, that's how I think it works. I think with Twitch, we would be the owners, right? Now it does
Uh-huh.
get a little bit more iffy whenever you start signing contracts with, let's say, Twitch, or you start signing off stuff, blah blah blah, right? Like at some point, Twitch comes in. At one point, there's an affiliate status on Twitch, right? So if you hit affiliate status, you can accept or deny it. If you accept it, you can make money off your Twitch channel. We could run ads on here. We could get
No.
subscribers that pay us, right? We could do that. But the flip side is Twitch pretty much owns the content at that point. So there's a lot of downsides. We couldn't stream on any other platform. I don't know about Spotify, but we've already talked about this. Anything that Twitch offers, I would never take, right? This is more just a hub for people to come in and interact with us and an incentive to get people in before it hits Spotify. But overall, I would like to maintain ownership over any content, right? And I wouldn't want someone like Twitch utilizing my content. Not saying they would because of how small we are, right? But let's say we
Uh-huh.
blew up, right? And Twitch started monetizing our content for their gain, and they technically could do it because they would have ownership of the content under that contract.
Yeah.
But I don't even know how to. I don't know. I mean, just getting it out there though, right?
Well, and like again, I guess that brings me back to the original point. Like, why would even people listen or want to listen? You know what I mean? Like, I don't.
No.
I think that when it comes to podcasts, like that was another problem I seen with starting one. You know what I mean? Like, what is the point? And like, how do you gain viewership, and why do people want to listen to you over the 10 million now other people that are doing it too, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're definitely small fish in a massive sea now, especially when it comes to even just like the Spotify thing. And that's why I think doing it on different platforms and having interaction and is a big part of obviously how I've kind of learned to grow and
No.
build a social media presence. You know what I mean? I, I think of all these things, and a lot of the time I'm just like, whatever. Things will happen as they may. You know what I mean? I didn't have this opportunity a month ago. The opportunity came up. We jumped on it and we've ran with it. You know what I mean? Like,
I
I,
think most of it, from a marketing standpoint at least, you want to get it in front of people that might care and then have them spread it to their friends. That's almost anything, right? I mean, you look at music, right? Music is the same way. If I were to release a song right now, the odds of it blowing up are one in billions, right? Tons of people are producing music, right?
yeah. I was gonna say, literally, Dre put out a new song
No.
today, and yeah, today, yesterday,
Yeah.
whatever, and I was like, yo, ridiculous. But
Yeah,
anyways,
and then you have, but there's so much music that's not hyped up, right? Like that's not
yeah,
mainstream media. And I think it's the same thing, though, right? Like that's how people do blow up, though. Is someone hears the song and they're like, "Oh, this is a good song. Let me show my friends this song," They hear the song, they like it, they show their friends. I think it's the same with any product, service, anything like that, right?
Yeah,
Essentially.
but hold on. You know, as much as I don't want to do this, like you look at some of the social media people that are getting massive attention and views right now, and you know, I don't think it's for musical talent that the Island Boys have gotten, you know, however many
I
views and reigned the internet terror. Yeah, Tiger King is another example of that ran
I
rampant,
think some of it
right?
is just it's so outlandish that you have to share it with your friends, right? Like you see an Island Boys. I saw the video earlier where they walked out of a Jake Paul podcast, right? They have a really big podcast, and they were on it, and they like got super mad and walked out, right? And that video blew up, but it's because of like the pure ridiculousness of it, right? It's like a meme video. It's the same, right? There, you just need it to be shared for some reason. But I think they capitalize on that. I think people like that capitalize on it. There
Yeah, but
is a lot of people like 6ix9ine. I don't know how much you know about 6ix9ine, right?
no.
Always a bunch of drama, blah blah blah. There's a clip of him where he's just talking about like, yeah, I know my music is trash. Like, I'm not it's stupid, right? I'm doing it for fun. Like, I know that people are gonna say, wow, this isn't good musical talent, but he knows it's going to blow up because of the controversy, right? You go and you start something with 1,000 people, you're going to blow up, right? Because of controversy.
So now that actually leads to another excellent point. You know what I mean? Stupid videos, like, is that the content that we're trying to push? Like, how dumb and absurd, like, can a conversation go, and
Honestly,
how adamant can two people be on a different subject? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
and like a warning for viewers, maybe not to like take anybody's advice over the internet. You know?
No. I think it's just getting it in front of people that you want to see it. Like your subjective audience, right? So we want people in theory that would like
Subjective
spark a
audience.
conversation, right? Like we like sparking conversations, having debates. So we would want people in here that would spark a conversation, have a debate, enjoy us debating, other people debating, stuff like that, right? But let's say our objective was just pure fame. We just wanted to blow up, make money, right? That's it. Then we could resort to doing just outlandish activities that would get noticed and get spread
No,
around, right? And
no,
that's my point. Like,
no,
there's a huge
no,
difference there,
no,
right?
no, no. I want no part in that aspect
You're
of
outlandish
any of
enough.
social media nonsense, right? Like, again, I think the only reason I like the Twitch aspect of it is because you get interaction. You can actually have
Mm-hmm.
people comment and state their opinions. You can read them and bounce ideas off them, and you know what I mean. And obviously, it's a big difference having someone in and talking with versus, you know, trying to do a stream or a podcast by yourself just rambling. So
Yeah.
you know what I mean. I think it does make a little bit of a difference, and now you're trying to do kind of two things: have a listener base and do interaction and keep everything somewhat relevant for the times. But
It's hard to
I'll
do
be
that,
honest.
especially. I mean, the more people you add to a conversation, the more easily the conversation goes astray, right? So if it was just us talking, we could talk about one topic. But then last week when we started bringing in Twitch chat, right, it just started going for hours. Unlike, and we just bounced around, right? And not even on purpose. It's just one little thing leads to another conversation, another idea, right? And the more people you have, the more little ideas, and that adds up, right?
Well, and that's why try and stick to somewhat of an idea, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for the topic of a conversation, and obviously we went all how do you start a radio station, you know what I mean? From
Yeah.
like why start a
Um,
podcast and how do you get people to listen? But I do think that's what ends up happening. And I, I do agree, like knowledge is the other thing, right? Like I'm a huge thing. I want to learn.
no.
And I want both sides of the opinion, like radical sides of the opinion, in my honest truth, right? Like I want as far this way and as far this way, and I want to hear both of them argue it out. Like sit down at the table and argue, and I'll pick a side. And you know what I mean? You'll be able to point out rather quickly who's telling you the truth where on what.
That's true. Yeah. I guess it starts getting more
Right?
confusing when you have more and more and more people, right? Like it's easy to decide between A or B, but when you decide
Yeah.
between A, B, C, D, E, F, right, it starts complicating things.
Yeah, but do you think in an open platform discussion that most logical people are gonna, and I see like there again almost creates a divide, right? Like people are on this side or they're on that side, and they're like, I'm never, they're not listening to the other side. But like, where's the middle common ground, the truth to the situation? Where's the happiness and peace in all of it as well, right? Without creating divide. Like I, I'll sit here and debate with you all the time, and we do this
Plenty,
consistently, and how
right?
this all
Plenty
started.
off camera, yeah.
Well,
I
that's literally
think,
how it started.
yeah, I think most people don't want to be wrong, right? All people don't
Oh,
want to be wrong. Nobody says, I'm going to say this and I hope I'm wrong about it, right? You assume, at least you try to assume, that the information you have is correct or right in some manner, right? I think.
I feel very differently. I really hope a lot of the information that I'm being told and reading about is wrong. Like I'm
I
gonna be
mean, yeah.
completely honest.
I don't know.
I
But
hope
see,
it's
that's the
wrong.
thing. That's other people's, right? Like, that's when you start reading it, you're like, okay, this is terrible. But you think you want to be right about them being wrong. You know what I'm saying? I feel like there's always some bias in your own head for most people. I mean, I would say
Oh yeah.
99%
Wow.
of people have some sort of bias of like, I hope I'm right about this, especially going into debates, right? People get heated.
Mhm.
And I feel like the more heated you get in a debate, the more you almost have to be right in your head, right? Because at some point you go so hard into a debate and you end up being wrong. It's like an embarrassment factor, right? You don't want to be the guy that was wrong. And I feel
Yeah,
like that's
and you
most
know
people,
what?
right?
I literally said this today. I think it takes a lot of courage for someone to admit they're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Doctors vaping, right? Like I
Yeah.
definitely think when a doctor all of a sudden gets all this information and he's proven wrong, like and there's a swallow your pride that comes with that. You know what I mean? Yeah, well, I messed up. I really maybe I need to go back and reconsider my choices and decisions. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, I think those can be eye-opening experiences,
See, I think
right? And
hindsight's 2020 though, right? Like looking back on it, you're like,
yeah,
I'm glad that
oh yeah,
happened. I'm glad someone proved me wrong because
yes,
now I have better information. But in the
yes.
moment, you do not want to be the guy that has to have hindsight, right? You want to be the guy providing hindsight. You want to be giving people information.
Well, seeing like I going back to even the conversation that we had before, right? Like what content do you put out, and are you mindful of what content you're putting out? And
Yeah.
it's like, no, I've never thought about it. Even when it comes to this, you know what I mean, like a listener and a viewing base, like who's your audience? I don't know. I really don't think about these things. Like I'll be
Yeah.
completely honest, I just kind of go and do what I'm thinking at the exact moment, and sometimes it works, a lot of the time it works, sometimes it really doesn't work. There's definitely been huge chunk recently where I'm like, okay, maybe, not sure what's happening.
Yeah. I don't know though. But that will be a good segue into the differences between Twitch and Spotify and why we're doing so much on Twitch and much less on Spotify. So we plan on doing the first hour on Twitch all the time. And then the remainder of the podcast will be done exclusively on Twitch and not Spotify because of chat and different types of opinions, different types of people. We might have guests every once in a while from Twitch even
Yeah.
and bring them in. But we're definitely going to focus the main hour on just Spotify, right? So that's why you won't see us reading Twitch very much during the first hour, things like that. After the first hour, we're going to open up Twitch chat completely, interact a lot more, and that's why you guys should check us
Okay.
out on Twitch. Twitch.tv
Uh,
slash Babbling Over Borders.
Look at this guy, just a plug for it. I
Look,
send it. See, like,
shameless.
and there's some things like again when it comes to me doing this, you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
this is a whole learning experience, right? Like if you had asked me 5 years ago if this is what I was gonna be doing, I would have told you you're nuts. You are
Yeah.
absolutely crazy. Get me on a podcast and talk. things change, things happen, different
Yeah,
ideas and opinions, and you grow and learn. And, at the same time, like, why Twitch over Spotify? Why Spotify over Twitch? Why? I guess you can't really interact over Spotify, can you?
exactly right. I think Spotify is more just like an immersive listening experience, whereas Twitch is more an immersive interactive experience, right? So that's why we kind of want to differentiate between the two, even though it will be one solid podcast. There's still going to be a line because if we go too heavy into Twitch chat, then it is not as immersive when you're just listening to the audio because you can't type, respond, have your opinion, right? Whereas if we're just on Twitch, then people can't just listen to us on Spotify. I don't want to do just Twitch because marketing. That's why. More viewers on Spotify. And Spotify is one of the fastest growing companies, probably the fastest, if I'm not mistaken, growing like audio company, right? I mean, look at how much they've grown, especially with podcasts.
Joe Rogan.
There you go. Right? What was it? 100 million? Something like that? I think it was.
Oh my goodness.
$100
Yeah, but
million.
see, like, and I think there's the difference, right? Like, you definitely look at this more of a marketing side, and I'm sure that's from your background and what you've done. You know what I mean? And me, I'm just like, okay, you talk, you do some things. You know what I mean? Like, I had no idea like the amount of like money that goes into these things. And obviously, like, again, when
Oh,
you say
yeah.
like a radio broadcast, like, you're trying to get people's attention, like, you're trying to get them to listen to that station, right? 94.9 is doing its, 97.7 is
No.
doing it. Maybe I shouldn't be blasting these radio stations, but you know what I mean? Like,
I think I don't know. I think this is a lot different also because this is so new that it's almost foreign to everybody though, right? You pretty much just learn as you go. Like I said, I would say almost all successful podcasts in the last year have been started from people that already have a massive following, right? Whether it be YouTubers, artists, whatever have you, right?
yeah,
Most of
that's
it
true.
you're looking at is going to be from people that have a following, right?
Well, see, there's another like topic on the whole thing. How do you get people to click on a specific podcast on Spotify? Like we said, you know what I mean? Like, are you looking for news
So I
podcasts to
think
listen
mostly what will happen in terms of Spotify is
to?
another really
Why?
good thing about Spotify is it'll recommend you things based on other people's listening habits, your listening habits, stuff like that, right? So let's say you listen to a lot of podcasts about horses, right? You love horses. Spotify knows you love horses because you listen to a lot of horse podcasts, too many horse podcasts, right? But then we start a horse podcast. Spotify says, oh, well, they love horses. Let's put this in front of them, right? And then you listen, you like what you hear, you share it with your horse friends,
Yeah, but
right?
we're talking
Same
about
concept.
countries and different opinions and arguing. How, like, arguments? I look up
I,
people arguing on
people
the internet.
arguing. You think you did with how argumentative you are. You have to
Well,
have some ammo coming in, don't you?
I, I don't really have anything to argue about that I can think of. You know what I mean? And other than, like, I think Canada's laws are pretty stupid when it comes to content. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see any
Mm-hmm.
reason why I can't view on the internet that's supposed to be an open source platform for anybody to view and or listen to whatever they want. Why I can't go listen to or view certain things on Netflix because Canada's like, no,
That is
bad.
weird. Also, you have a completely different Netflix than I do, right? Like a lot of shows are exclusive in Canada as well. I think that's
Yeah,
probably
but
has to
so
do
is
with the
Spotify the same
broadcasting
thing?
networks, right? I think it's who does or who makes the shows, right? So let's say a Canadian company makes a Canadian show, like
Yeah,
Dragon's Den,
broadcast.
right? Dragon's Den is a really good example because we don't have Dragon's
Yeah.
Den on our Netflix, and you don't have Shark Tank, do you? You only have Dragon's Den, or do you have Shark Tank? I don't know.
I think
Regardless, we don't have Dragon's Den, but it's a Canadian-based show, right? So whoever produced and developed Dragon's Den probably made it to where it's a Canadian broadcast company, so they have the rights, and they'll give
yeah,
it
but
to Canadian TV companies.
No offense.
or
Look at the
streaming.
size of the U.S. versus the size of Canada. You would be stupid not to market in the U.S. if you can get
No,
that
I
marketed.
agree. I think
Like,
also the US is one of the most open Netflix like portals, if that makes sense. A lot of countries have banned material too, right? So you have to look at that. Not necessarily us two, but a lot of countries, let's say Middle Eastern countries, have been really bad on Netflix about that, right? So a lot of shows and movies are banned in these countries that have different types of laws than us.
see, now you make me curious. Like, obviously, we have friends all over the world. Like, is our
Mm-hmm.
buddy in Sweden viewing a different Netflix than us? Is our buddy in
I'm
England
sure.
viewing a different Netflix than us? Like,
I'm sure some of it, right? I mean, you have to look at just their laws or places that I'm sure Netflix has. Essentially, from what I understand, Netflix pays companies to produce content and put it on Netflix, right? So let's say you want to make a movie, Netflix will pay you and they'll call it a Netflix original. That's why there's so many Netflix originals, right? It's because they pretty much hire you. They contract you out, contract whoever out to make
yeah,
movies and
but I've
shows.
heard it's hard to get a movie on Netflix.
Oh, I'm sure it is. But I think also it's probably a bit easier if you're somewhere that they don't have a lot of content. So let's say you were in Sweden and you wanted to make a Swedish reality show. That would be a lot easier to do there than it would here, right? Because you'd have a lot more viewers in Sweden. Does that make
Why in
sense?
Sweden?
I'm just saying anywhere, right? Somewhere more niche
Oh,
where they don't have the same type of content or they don't have something relatable, right? I mean, you look
I
at
get it.
American Netflix, almost every bit of it is American, right? But then you see a lot of Netflix originals are like in German, they're in Korean, right? Squid Game. Look at that.
Yeah,
That was probably something like that, right? I mean, they
yeah,
did it in Korea, from my understanding. So that
and
was
then
probably
subbed
one of
it.
those, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So they probably
no,
do
that
that a
makes
lot
sense.
more than we even know of. And they're not even available here because they're smaller projects that are probably exclusive to those countries, if I had to guess.
See, and you know what's funny? That made me think of like markets and what little I do know about them. I read something that was very interesting. You know, the first shoe seller goes over to whatever country that isn't wearing shoes and says, "We can't sell any shoes. There's no one selling shoes."
Mm,
Comes back and says, "Whatever." The next guy goes over, "We can sell all the shoes. They don't have shoes. They need shoes,"
mm-hmm.
right? And you know, people obviously, depending on that, how you look at the situation, is going to be dependent on how things go and how things
No.
transpire, right? I think that plays a big part in.
I mean, that's something we've talked about a lot on a different scale, on a larger scale, probably, in terms of opening up businesses or wanting to open any type of business and trying to find a need for it, right? Do you go to find a need or do you go into a market that's already super saturated, but you know a lot of people are also buying? That's why it's saturated, right? So there's pros and cons to both. Everyone always thinks I need an invention that'll change the world that nobody's ever seen, nobody's ever heard of. That's how I'm going to get rich, right? But in reality, some of the richest people in the world, the richest people in the world, I'm sure, are going after, let's say, oil, right? Everyone needs oil. There's tons of people getting oil, but if you can do it, then you'll also make money, right? Like,
Well, and in reality, even if you're to take a small little bit of different markets, right? Like again, the Twitch and Spotify thing, right? If we can
mm,
get a little bit here and a little bit there, you know, maybe you actually grow into something that is worth people's time and
yeah,
effort and energy. You know what I mean? Like again, I don't even know if this is worth doing. I'll be completely honest, but
no,
it, I got nothing better to do. You got
it's
anything
something
better
to
to
do,
do?
right? Like, here
Yeah.
we might as well. If we babble
Well,
on a
and you
call, then we can babble live on a call, right? Essentially.
Well, and again, we definitely have some interesting points, right? Like that whole thing about like radio station, like that got me thinking, you know what I mean? How this whole works. And obviously, with the new digital market, this is where it's all going. It's all being done on live.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at radio stations are now doing exactly this, adding a camera and putting in studio and doing
Yeah.
photography along with their morning shows or their afternoon, whatever show is popular, they're adding a video camera to it,
Mm, yeah, yeah.
right? And doing it online for viewers to go and watch and interact with.
I think it's just getting your content out there, right? Diversifying where you put it. I mean, there's no downsides of putting it on as many places as you can, right? At least not at this level. At this
Yeah,
level, there would be at a higher level for sure, right? But I'd
yeah.
say starting out, put your content anywhere you can, right? Like the only reason we're not putting it on Apple Music, for example, Apple Music is huge for podcasts too, but they just have a lot more restrictions, fees, whatever. But we are for sure putting it on every platform that is free and accessible to us, right?
You have to pay Apple money to get your podcast on their platform.
Yeah, it's like $20 a year or something. It's nothing like crazy, right? But I don't know. I guess it kind of cycles out people that wouldn't do it seriously. Like I read something recently that said there's a huge difference in people that will spend $1 versus people that want to spend nothing. Like if you put something on your website and like an entry fee of $1, the people that join will be so much more serious about it because it feels more serious to them that they've dedicated, just put in their information, right? And paid for it, like a mental block. That whenever you get something for free, that mental block is there to where you don't take it as serious or it's not as reputable, whatever it may be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably what Apple wants to do.
Yeah, but see, and that okay, so then you go back to the internet and all the free things. How do you tell what's credible, what's not? You know,
you don't.
Metaverse is another example. Like,
Metaverse.
what happened there?
I saw a post earlier. I did no checking into this, but it was some random meme format post that said Bill Gates said Microsoft meetings will be in the metaverse within like 3 years. So I will be honest, I don't really know what the metaverse is. It sounds like it's a video game. I don't really understand it past that point.
So how do we do a podcast with a video game and be in the metaverse and do it all? It's like I can't keep up with all the technology.
Have you ever seen of the video, or have you ever heard of the game Second Life?
Second Life? No.
Okay. Essentially, at very base level, it's a big open world game where everyone can go and create a character and live like a second life. Right? You can go, people buy property, people get jobs, you can sell stuff, whatever, right? There's a really dark side to it, there's a light side to it, whatever.
I think I have heard of this, and people are doing all kinds of crazy things on there.
A lot of really crazy stuff that's like, I think it got more famous. It got more, I don't know, like passed around because of the dark stuff on it, right?
Yeah.
It is very old, though. It is decades old at this point. At least 15 years old or something, right? Very old. So, but the metaverse kind of reminds me of that. Because I've seen people buying property in the metaverse. Like, there's people buying houses and selling it. I'm like, I don't understand.
And pictures and art and everything digital. And, like, I guess there's the other thing when it came to a podcast. Like, you can't... I hate ads in a podcast. When I'm listening to things and they put an ad, I'm like, really? YouTube, you listen to a song, they put an ad in the song now. Like,
yeah, halfway through it. But you have to look at that's also how they're making money.
To make money, but like, there's a difference between like monetizing and trying to make a little bit of money with what you're doing, and then there's like, full blown ad, ridiculous, like push it.
I think it's all about the ad rates, right? So putting an ad in the middle of the song, people are going to hear it. So that ad rate has to cost way more than an ad at the very end of the song. When people are like, oh, that's just an ad, the song's over, let me click to something else, right? Or at the very beginning when people say, oh, I'll just listen to something different, right? So I think it's about ad rates. I mean, obviously not every song is like that. So I think it really depends on just how much they're getting paid, right? People sell out at the lowest level or at the highest level. Everyone has a sellout price. This will be 2 hours worth of ads for the right price.
what people are willing to do for money, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, I guess, yeah, there's some things, you know what I mean? Like, I'll work hard. I'll put in time and effort and talk and do whatever I can do. You know what I mean? I have no problem with that. There's other things that I'm not willing to do, you know what I mean? And just have no interest in and desire for. Like, and even ads too, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's a whole conflict in itself. But everything has ads everywhere you go. You literally join a website now and an ad pops up. And it's like,
Yeah, I think one big thing that's been changing and evolving a lot is sponsored ads, right? So instead of a direct advertisement that says go buy this product, right? A lot you see this a lot on Twitch. I mean, you see it a lot on YouTube, everywhere really. Companies are transitioning to where they will pay you a lump sum of money to say that they sponsored you or to do something that they sponsored you to do, right? So let's say you want to. Mr. Beast has talked about this a lot, right? You know Mr. Beast, I'm sure. Massive YouTuber,
Yes.
spends millions of dollars, right? But a lot of his stuff is sponsored, and the way they do it, they're not always just like, oh, go buy this product, go use current, right? They'll say, we'll give you $100,000. David Dobrik, too. He was big on sponsored. He has a lot of sponsors. They'll say, this video is sponsored by Facebook, and then they'll go give a homeless guy $50,000, right? So, but they'll know that Facebook is the reason they did that. Just having their name in front of that many people, companies will pay ridiculous amounts for because they see it now, I think, as more profitable as opposed to running ads that people like zone out of, right? They don't pay attention.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. I guess there again, there's a whole marketing to this that I'm
Mm.
really not aware of. I've been told I do a pretty good job at what I do, but like I'm not a marketer. I really don't know. That's not something I've followed or
No.
had really interest in. I just do what they do, right? Like,
I think there's also so many levels of marketing though, like, and it's changing so fast all the time. Like, it's so hard to keep up with, like everything, obviously. I mean, I have no experience in video marketing, right? But I can market a
yeah,
business, but marketing a product is completely different. Or marketing, I mean, how you market. I can write up flyers, I can run events, but can I
do
sponsor videos and get the video out there, right? That's a whole different ballgame, stuff like that.
Yeah, but so ads and influencers, right? Like that's huge, huge market in the US. I would be curious how big a market is in Canada because eh, I read that the government paid influencers all kinds of money to do all kinds of crazy things that I can't believe the government is paying influencers to do, but like if the
I think that's
government
the
is allowed.
future, honestly, though. I mean, you
Yeah,
look
but
at, let's say, like war era before, right? Everyone's seen, at least here, right? I don't know about up. I'm sure it's a lot different in Canada, but here, there's like famous posters that are like, "We need you," right? Like getting people to sign up for the war, like Vietnam, Korea, whatever, right? Long time ago, people
yeah,
trying pretty much different types of propaganda to make people sign up, right? And not just for that, any type of propaganda anywhere in the world, right? I think now with how much social media there is, propaganda is a lot different. So you don't need to run ads, you don't need to have patriotism, whatever it may be, right? You have famous people with a lot of followers say what you want them to. You pay them a lot of money to get your message out there. And their followers by default say, "Oh, if they agree with it, I want to agree with it too," right? I think that's a big
hmm,
problem moving forward, though, right? Is I mean, I guess it comes down to the morals of the influencers, really. There's people I would never take a brand deal from, right? But
why?
just in general, let's say their morals are way off, right? I mean,
I
I guess
guess.
it also comes out to the price, right? Like your sellout price, like I was talking about. If Trudeau came to you and he said, "Anthony, look, I need you to tell everyone you love me on Facebook. I need you to go live and hype me up, and I'll give you $100,000 cash." See, that's where you have to think about it. Like, oh, I hate Trudeau, but I do love $100,000. So
Wow,
where
just
do
the
you draw the line,
situation
right?
right now, $100,000 would, turn
Right.
this whole predicament right this second around,
And I think
But
everyone has a price on most of their morals. I would go as far as say 90% of your morals have a price on them. I would say there's obviously some stuff I would not kill my mom for any amount of money, right?
yeah,
But
no,
like
yeah, no.
there's a lot of stuff that I would do for a lot of money, right? And your morals are flexible. I think most people think morals are set in stone, right? Whereas I see most morals as very flexible, depending on the situation, the backing. right?
Look at Jackass. Look at I'm sure those guys had to put
Yeah, right.
some of their morals
And that's
out the
at such
window
like
to
a
do.
lower level too, right? Like how much for you to get punched in the nuts, right? Like I'm not gonna do it for free, but whenever
Yeah.
you offer me, if you said, "Let me punch you in the nuts and I'll give you 10 grand," I'm like, oh, I mean, I could use 10 grand right now, you know.
Oh yeah, but
And this
see,
is just
like,
that on a broader scale, right?
and I think there's the difference though. Like, I could never see myself doing that for a video to try and get views to like make money. Like, could not see myself doing
I
those
think the
things.
problem is you haven't had that opportunity. It's like it's too hard to grasp for you though, right? Like nobody's ever come and said, "We love your content. Make a video about this and we'll give you this huge lump sum of money." Like it's easy to write off now because it seems like such an impossibility, right? But if it becomes a possibility, then I feel like a lot of things change, right? You have to have a number for things, right? And even negotiations, right? They come to you and
That's
you're like,
valid.
I do not agree with what your product is, what you stand for, your company, but for $400,000, I might start agreeing with it, right? Like, and I think that's I mean, going back to influencers, that's a big problem that will persist as more people get famous online, right? Because you can't expect everyone to have morals, especially the more famous people there are, the less famous people with morals there are, right?
Yeah, but and what even defines famous? Like, you know what I mean? I really don't
That's
even.
true, yeah.
And obviously, there's a huge difference. But like, I look at around at this right here, and I'm like, this is way overboard. Like, there's a light here, there's a light here, there's a camera, there's a
Yeah.
computer. Like, there's a lot happening here that is a lot. And then in reality, like, if you actually stop and think about it, like, how many potential people could be listening? You know what I mean? You're like, maybe I just shouldn't talk. You know what I mean? Like, maybe I should be
No.
quiet. Like, there's a lot. There's a lot.
There's a lot of possibilities. I think, I don't know. I mean, I've never been famous, right? So I can't speak on that too much, but I guarantee people are always talking about don't switch up when you get famous. No, I would definitely switch up. I think you have to, right? You have to adapt to your surroundings. Right now, my surroundings are not fame. But if I started getting famous, I had people coming at me with money for whatever it may be. I had people looking to me for whatever the case is. I mean, you have to adapt to that, right? I think some part of you will change.
I guess I agree with that. You have to somewhat, do certain different things to keep up with it. Snoop Dogg's a perfect example of that, actually.
Mm,
Again, how he stayed relevant this whole time.
no,
But then you go look at some of the things he did. Like, he went on cooking shows. Like,
I think I don't know, and a lot of that is opportunity too. I think with
yeah.
fame
Oh, huge,
becomes a lot more
huge.
opportunity. He can do whatever he wants now, right?
Yeah.
He has enough money. He's set for life. So at this point, is it more he wants to be relevant or he's just bored, right? Like, oh, what can I do? I can go cook with Martha Stewart, right? Like, I don't have that opportunity. I can't go cook with Martha Stewart, but he can
Would you if you
literally do
could?
anything. Would I go cook with Martha Stewart? Of course. I'm not even a huge Martha Stewart fan, but like, that's an opportunity, right? Something
I
new.
guess just say you did it, and I guess I think that's kind of the things that I think about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I had the opportunity to travel here. I had the opportunity to do this, and like, I do think about those experiences a lot more than a lot of the other nonsense. You know what I mean? Like, even all the garbage things that happen in life, right? I think those experiences stand out a lot more than the fact that I can say, yo, hey, we tried to do a podcast. I don't know,
Yeah,
it was a
right.
ridiculous idea, but hey, we did it. We tried it. We attempted it,
Yeah.
right? Like,
I think we also take for granted a lot of the opportunities we get from day-to-day stuff, right? I mean, we're talking about big opportunities for big levels of fame, right? But let's say you weren't talkative and you didn't go around and introduce yourself to new people. How much of you would you have gotten to travel in the US, right? How many opportunities have arose because of that? Whether it be people you know, shows you've been to, whatever, right?
personality, yeah. Personality, I guess,
So I
plays a
think that's
big part
another
in it
thing.
too.
Like we're talking about big fame, but even like little fame, in essence, right? I mean, just different opportunities that come out from being personable, networking around, right? Being famous is just that on a broad scale, right? Because now instead of knowing 100 people, you know 100,000 people that would do whatever.
That's actually very interesting and very well put, because you know what I mean. I'm like, wow, I never thought of it like that at all. It's more,
No.
I've been lucky and met like some amazing people, right? Through this friend and that friend, I've got to meet this person and that person, and it all is just kind of again worked out. Like we met and we're doing this now because of all that, right?
See, I
Like, and
think a
again,
lot of
we're
it is luck, but I think it starts with just the dedication, right? Like you have to get lucky. I mean, I think everything is a portion of luck, right? Even the hardest workers in the world. Like just the opportunity that fell as it was placed, right? Like the butterfly effect. We were talking about this before. Like
yeah.
between me and you, like if one thing didn't go exactly how it did, we would have never met, right?
Well,
Like
and that
or the odds of
yeah,
us meeting go drastically down.
yeah,
So it's the
and
same as with any type of success or anything that happens.
hmm, I definitely agree with that. I was going to say, like, I went down there, you know what I mean? I would have met you, right? But in reality, you didn't end up going, or you blow a tire on the side of the road for whatever reason, you can't make the show.
Right.
I didn't specifically talk to you at the show, or you know what I mean? Like,
No.
again, so many different things. How many other people were at the show that I'm not doing a podcast with,
And
right?
that's
Like,
only direct when we met, right? Even before we met, well, years before, things could have changed. I mean, if one of us
yeah,
didn't get into that industry, didn't even start, right? Like, there's so many
very
possibilities of outcomes, right? And we just so happen to land on the exact outcome that is this podcast.
true. Unbelievable that we were able to make this work. I can't lie. And I really hope the audio's been better. Hopefully the video is
Mm-hmm.
decent. Well, I guess for Spotify and those listening, it's not going to be as big deal for the video part of it, but the audio,
No.
hopefully there was no issues there and everything went well.
Hopefully everything is going as it should. Last week we definitely had some technical difficulties all around. This week, I think we have most of them covered.
Is it recording?
I think it says it is. We'll see what happens.
Oh boy.
You guys can
So
see if it was recording tomorrow on Spotify. So go check us out on Spotify too. More shameless plugs. I am full of them. If you guys want to see if we failed, then go to Spotify, right?
yeah, just plug Spotify and hopefully, you know what I mean,
Yeah, right.
they'll help us out a little bit. Like, is that
There
the
you
plan here?
go. Just some expertise. Just somebody to tell us what to do because this has been rough. We're using double the programs we were last week. We're using, I've routed it, different channels. We're going to see what happens. But I think we should be set for Spotify tomorrow at noon. So go check out the Spotify tomorrow, Friday.
Noon.
Noon, yes. Maybe
Whoa,
before. It might be
whoa.
tonight. We'll see what happens.
I was gonna say, like, normally don't releases happen at midnight? Like, don't your record and game releases happen at midnight?
Sometimes. Releases it whenever I
Whoa.
can get it there, to be honest. We'll see how many technical difficulties we get to after this episode, and then we'll see when it gets to Spotify.
Oh my goodness.
Eventually, we'll be consistent when we actually know what we're doing. But until then, you'll just have to check in, see what's going on, see what you can find.
Was the audio cutting out like last time, or was it
No,
much
the
better?
audio is definitely a lot better this time. I know that for a fact. So we've solved at least one problem. I'd say we're on a roll at this point. If we
We're
just
moving
solve
forward.
one
We're
problem every podcast, in a couple months, we'll be solid.
We might actually like make it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
We could
right.
actually like make a show out of this and do a thing.
Maybe.
Somewhat
That just brings up
professionally.
more problems or even more issues.
Well, yeah, I do agree with that. But again, if people find some benefit in it, and I think, again, obviously, This one is a little bit different. We didn't even argue that much again. I'm definitely a little surprised. And we argued a lot more again after the Spotify thing. Like
That's true.
when
Yeah,
the
a lot
Twitch
more
thing
interaction.
happened, and discussion kind of, you know what I mean? Little comment here, comment there, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, about this. What about that?
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess, yeah, I don't know. I
Mm-mm.
still don't know why anyone would listen, but if you are listening, thank you. Like, you know.
Of course. Thank you all. And if you want to be part of the argument section, twitch.tv/babbling over borders. That's when we really get into it. It's when other people rile us up. I think that's the problem. We're very passive people. We're fine. It's the other people. It's everyone else's fault.
Yeah, me and you talking is
Everyone
no
else's
problem.
fault.
As soon as anyone else is involved, arises any, points, then
Right.
well, yeah, but then why do me and you argue?
It's their fault. I don't know. We're gonna blame everyone else. That's the way to go, honestly. That's the way to
Argue
go.
about this, argue about that. Is this even gonna work? You know what I mean? Like, I really hope you actually fix this.
Look, I have this recording theoretically on 2 different sources. It should be saving to my computer and also to Twitch. So if one fails, the other one is there. We'll see how that works.
Well,
But
I was definitely a little disappointed. I couldn't go look it up.
Me
on
too,
Spotify
Anthony. Me too.
on Friday.
Me too. I went after the podcast and tried to find a recording, and lo and behold, no recording anywhere. Everywhere it was supposed to record, it did not record. But this time is different. We're changed men.
So who did you figure out who recorded the clips of it?
No, it's random. Anyone can record clips.
Oh.
I do know who did it, but anyone can do it. Anyone can clip up to, I don't know if it's 30 seconds or longer. I don't know. I don't use the clip feature too often. But they can clip whenever they would like.
Can you steal audio from Spotify?
I mean, you can record anything, I guess. You can't clip it like you can on Twitch.
Could you download it and then clip? No, because Spotify, you can't download it to like your access. It's still on the Spotify platform.
Yeah, it's still on. It's through Spotify. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they can't repurpose our audio there. They could technically repurpose our video or audio through the Twitch stream, but they won't do that because they love us and we're available everywhere already. Where are you gonna put it? We're already there. Just go find us. Twitch, YouTube, Spotify. We'll even have a TikTok just for you guys sometime.
The only time I actually enjoyed, my buddy took a couple screenshots of me doing a live video and then added some memes to them, and I definitely got a pretty good laugh out of that.
All right, guys, you heard it here. Make memes out of Anthony. You can clip us on twitch.tv/babbling over borders. You do whatever you want.
Okay. See, like, and again, careful what you say on a thing because you're just gonna get bombarded, and I have no interest in that. Wow.
That will be our 100 Twitch follower special. It'll just be us going over memes of Anthony that were made by chat. Fantastic.
100 episodes. Do you think we can actually make it that
100 followers? I don't know.
With you for that long?
Honestly, I don't think technology will put up with us for that long.
Well,
we barely made it through 2.
How long it goes, right? We've almost gone an hour. I'm almost fed up with you already. How long till like Spotify's like, you two are ridiculous. Get out of here.
Honestly, I think whenever we get reported and banned on every platform, that's when we'll eventually have to stop. So I'd say a good 3-4 episodes more.
We can.
I'm sure past that, they're just gonna get tired of us. They're gonna see you. They're gonna see me. No, we're not made for social media.
Well, again, I tried to find the Instagram account earlier and couldn't find that either. And I guess it's hard to make clips for an Instagram account when it's not recorded. So
that's fine. This time will be different. You'll be able to find us everywhere soon.
All right.
Not right now, though. Don't look at Spotify quite yet. But by the time you hear this on Spotify, you'll be able to watch the video here on YouTube. You'll have lots of options. Tomorrow.
There we go.
Tomorrow is the 17th. Next week is Christmas, and that is crazy to me. I just wanted
What
to
day is
toss
Christmas?
that in. Next Saturday, I
Okay, so
think.
we're not going to be streaming on like a holiday, like no Christmas,
No,
no
no,
Boxing Day.
no. I don't
Okay.
know. I don't know what Boxing Day is. So as long as it's not a Thursday, we can reschedule for any major
You
holidays.
you don't know what Boxing Day is?
I don't know what day it is. I'm not Canadian. What do you mean? We don't have a Boxing Day. We box every day.
What? Next episode, leave it alone. We'll deal with
We'll go
Spotify.
through a lot of differences next episode because I do want to touch on a lot of those. Right, there's a lot of differences, like even small stuff, food, culture, language. Even earlier, telling me how to spell border. This guy,
Whatever.
you can't trust him. I'll tell you. But that will probably wrap up the Spotify session. I'd say we're at right at an hour.
Boom.
Anything
Love
past
it.
this will be interactive with Twitch. So, audio listeners, if you'd like to expand our useless babbling and call us out, and we'll read it and react to that, and there'll probably be a lot more arguing. Check us out, twitch.tv/babbling over borders.